Hey, it's Rihanna. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a Throwback Thursday Q&A tag. I actually found this tag by just Googling YouTube video ideas. I'm always looking for, fun tags or Q&As to do or other video ideas just so I can bring something different to the channel to mix it up besides the typical ones I always do, like my planner videos and, my regular daily vlogs. So I hope that you enjoy this video and let's get started. What year was I born in? I was actually born in 1982, which makes me 34 because I haven't yet had my birthday. So I'll be 35 in July. Do I have any pictures of myself from when I was little? And if so, show them. I don't have any pictures of myself like framed or anything. I do have a keepsake box with all kinds of pictures and stuff in it from whenever I was younger, but I believe that is like tucked away in the closet somewhere. So I'll just insert some pictures for y'all here. What TV shows did I grow up watching? Well, in the 80s, TGIF became a thing. I think it was on channel 13 on Fridays, and they had like Full House, Family Matters, Perfect Strangers. Those shows we watched every week as a family. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. My parents used to watch In Living Color every weekend, and I would watch that with them. Of course, cartoons, anything on Nickelodeon. I watched a lot of Disney and PBS, like at my grandparents' house. So like Sesame Street. I am too old for like Barney or anything that came after that. So Barney was like my brother's generation. So I didn't watch any of those type of kids shows, but there were a couple shows on Nickelodeon that I used to love to watch. Rugrats, Doug, Clarissa Explains It All, Guts. Those were all shows that I really enjoyed watching. There was a couple that I really liked that I can't think of and no one even knows what I'm talking about. But it was on Nickelodeon and they were like in a department store after hours. And like the opening credit was like a cartoon and they like flew in on a magic carpet or something. I don't even know for sure, but yeah, there was that. I don't know. I feel like I watched a lot of TV growing up. I didn't have any siblings and my parents were pretty strict about letting me play outside because we lived in an apartment complex and they didn't think it was safe. And so I did spend a lot of time watching TV. What did I want to be when I grew up, and do I still want to be that? I feel like I changed my career as a child like every year. I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a pediatrician. I wanted to be an astronaut. I mean, I just feel like those are all typical things that kids want to be when they grow up. But one of the things I always said I wanted to do was I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I would say that for that one, I do definitely still want to do that. Obviously don't want to be an astronaut or a pediatrician. The next question is to show a video of myself when I was younger. Now, there were camcorders back then, believe it or not. I know some of y'all youngins probably think that we didn't have that. We did, but they were all VHSs and I don't have that to show y'all. That's not something that was like easily formatted to put onto the internet. So like, I don't have Facebook videos my mom put up of me when I was little. While I'm editing this, I'll see if there's any that have been converted and put onto Facebook somehow, because like my aunt did that a couple times, but I'm pretty sure you're not gonna see anything here. What were my favorite toys to play with? I loved playing with Barbies. I just liked getting them dressed and having all of the accessories that went along with it. I love to ride my bike and skate. Those aren't really necessarily toys, I guess, but one of my favorite things to do when I got home from school, when I could, because like if my dad was home, I could go outside and play, or if I was at my grandparents' house, I could go outside and play. And so I would skate a lot or ride my bike around a lot. I also had a light bright that I really liked to play with. Of course, mine was like the Bright Night or something like that, because we didn't do name brand. But it was like the off name brand of light bright. And I did have one of those kitchen things, like the little tight kitchens. Oh, okay. So many toys. Whenever I start to think about it, I'm like, oh yeah. And then my popple, and I had one of those glow worms. And I mean, the 80s were just like the best decade for toys. I mean, I'm sorry, no one can compare to the toys from the 80s. What's the most embarrassing thing that I can remember doing? I don't know. I think that when you're like a preteen, that you do a lot of embarrassing things and you don't know that you're doing it until you become an adult and you see a preteen that is behaving the same way that you did. Like, I thought I was so grown when I was like 12, and that I wanted to be treated like an adult, and I felt like I was an adult, and I didn't understand, you know, why anyone would see me as a child. But now that as an adult, and I've been around a 11, 12-year-old girl, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so obnoxious and annoying, and like, it's embarrassing. I have like secondhand embarrassment. Like, that's how I was, and I realized that, you know, I was just as embarrassing as she is. Read something you wrote in kindergarten. I don't have anything from when I was in kindergarten. I mean, I guess my mom has it, maybe, but I'm not like, what's the word when you're like nostalgic? I am nostalgic, but I don't keep lots of stuff. Like, I have a box of keepsakes, but nothing back from kindergarten. It started in junior high. 3 songs you loved to listen to as a child. Well, I loved Faith by George Michael. You know, gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. Ooh, gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. That one. And I also loved Michael Jackson. And so I'm trying to remember when I was in like 1st grade, one of his albums came out and I wanted it so bad. And let's check Google and see. I was 82, I was born. So +5 is 87 is kindergarten, 88, from 88. It would probably have to be from his album Bad. That came out in 87. I can't say exactly which song it was that I really liked, but on that album, on his album Bad that came out in 87, the songs that I can think of that I know that I liked were Bad, obviously. The Way You Make Me Feel, Man in the Mirror, and Smooth Criminal. And I don't know if those are necessarily songs that like a 6-year-old should be listening to, but my parents listened to it, so I listened to it. And also, a song that I liked when I was a kid was Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. I was obsessed with him. I think I got the tape one year for my birthday when I was like, I think I was like 8 years old. I think it was like 7 or 8. Or maybe when I turned 9. I don't know, somewhere around there. 7, 8, or 9 years old. I got the tape for my birthday, and I had a little Walkman, and I used to listen to it just constantly. Flip it, listen to side A, flip it, listen to side B, flip it, listen to side A. Oh, Vanilla Ice. And I was so excited whenever he was in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was like, go ninja, go ninja, go. Go ninja, go ninja, go. Okay, don't make fun of me. What was one thing that you dressed up for Halloween as a kid? My mom was super into Halloween, or she still is super into Halloween. And so that was like a really big holiday for us. And I remember one year I won 1st place. We were cats, like the whole family was cats. And I wore like a black unitard with like black leggings. I had little cat ears. She painted my face orange and then black stripes. I had like whiskers and a tail. And one year I was a cheerleader. I was super excited about being a cheerleader. I was supposed to be a crayon, but she ended up buying me a cheerleader costume instead, which I'm glad she did because that was much cuter. Yeah, those are the two that stick out in the most at this moment for some reason. Are there any special things that you kept from when you were a child? I did keep my glowworm for a really long time, like way past the point of it working. And I've had stuffed animals and stuff that have like reappeared that were like at my grandparents' house, that were mine when I was a kid. Books like Lyle Lyle the Crocodile. That was a book that I used to read with my grandma like every weekend. But nothing that I really got to play with too much because I was kind of destructive as a kid. And so my toys didn't really last very long. Like I played with my toys. So no, I don't have anything anymore. There might be, like I said, there might be stuffed animals at my grandparents' house or maybe one or two at my parents' house. But that's about it. Oh, except for this. I got this in high school. Does this count? What's something weird that you used to do when you were a child? I would always get fussed at by my grandma for making concoctions. I was always really intrigued by what would happen if I did this. So I would find random things and, oh wait, I just have a better story. I'm gonna finish the story real quick. I would find things like the silica packets that come in your shoes, and I would take that and like, my grandma always had those little tiny bathroom Dixie cups, little small ones, and they're like shot glass size. And I would just like pour things in there and see what would happen. Like I would take like the Bengay stuff that you rub on your muscle aches, and I'd mix it with like the silica little gel packet things. Or I would pour fingernail polish and shaving cream. I would just do stuff like that, and just to see what would happen from doing it. There was no reason, and my grandma would get so frustrated because I would make a huge mess, and then I would hide it because I didn't want to get in trouble. And yeah. Okay, so along those lines of weird things, and also kind of a funny story that goes, because it does, one of the things is to tell a funny story. So it's kind of embarrassing. I was weird, and I used to go door to door in my grandparents' neighborhood when I was growing up and try to sell things. Like, I mean, literally I'd walk around my grandparents' house and I would just pick random things. Like I would take this and this and this sheet of half-used stickers and a pen and a hole punch, and I would put them in a basket, and I would go to every house. I think I have knocked on every single door in my grandparents' neighborhood and tried to sell something to that person that answered the door. And one time I also, same thing, I had gone around and I collected money for the church, and people actually gave me money. And like when I got back home, my aunt was like, "Where did you get all this money from?" And I guess I told her, you know, I was like 7 years old, and I was like, I had like, you know, all of a sudden I came home with like $50 or something, all in like small bills. And she made me go take it back, I think, or maybe she made me tithe it to the church, because at that point I don't remember. I think she took me to a couple houses, and then after that I think I had to tithe it or something. But I was a weird kid. What's the scariest thing that I remember happening? Probably, I mean, I had a lot of really creepy things happen, and I'm not going to tell those on my YouTube channel. When I was about 9 years old, my brother Ronnie had been born, and he was about a year old, I guess, at this point. He was walking around in my mom's high heels, and he had stepped on one of those little fake TVs for babies that you wind up, and it like the picture scrolls around and around and around, and it plays music. And he had stepped on that, and he slipped, and he hit his head on the corner of the chair. And I don't know if y'all don't know what happens when you get like a head wound. It just pours blood. I mean, just like the tiniest little cut, and just like pouring blood off your face. And I just remember screaming, and I was like stuck. Like I just screamed bloody murder. My parents came running down the stairs. Like I thought he was dying or gonna die or something. And yeah, that was pretty scary. And the last question is, how is the world different now from when you were a kid? It's extremely different. I'm not saying that there weren't like bad things happening when I was a kid, but you didn't have, your parents weren't so like protective over you, and the children had a lot more independence. Like, my parents were pretty strict. I lived in an apartment complex, so I wasn't allowed to really like roam around, but I did anyways. Like, I would get, you know, I pushed boundaries as much as I could because that's what kids do. But nowadays kids don't play outside. That's like, we live in a neighborhood. I live in a subdivision, and I never see kids outside playing. And when I hear kids outside playing now, I'm all like, ugh, what are they doing outside? Like, to hear kids like laughing and running up and down the street is like, now it's annoying, but that used to be commonplace when I was a kid. I used to play outside until the streetlights came on, you know, and just, this is after I moved out of an apartment, obviously, but like, we would be outside until the streetlights came on when it was time to come home. Obviously there were no cell phones. You couldn't keep ties to your kids like that. Like, now you can just text them and be like, hey, where you at? Or call them and check on them, or even just check your freaking Find My Friend thing on your phone. Like, none of that was possible. There was no social media. Just, everyone knows times have changed. No internet, none of that. And I feel sorry for kids nowadays because I don't feel like they get to be kids. They don't get to play outside, and they don't get to use their imaginations, and they don't get to have any independence, and they have parents that are like overprotective, and I don't think that I'm gonna, you know, be any different as a parent, because that's just the way that we've become. So yeah, a lot has changed. All right, well, that was the Throwback Thursday Q&A tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave any comments or questions down below. Don't forget to click that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.